The atmospheric sampler hummed softly as Ilara calibrated its sensors, her 4 slender fingers dancing across the control panel. The moss-covered clearing, her favorite research site on Viridia's southern continent, was oddly quiet this morning. Even the typical chattering of arboreal filter feeders was absent. That's when she heard it, a shrieking tear through the planet's upper atmosphere, followed by a distant impact that shook the ground beneath her feet. Central, this is medical specialist Ilara. She spoke into her communicator, her voice vibrating with the characteristic dual-toned resonance of Viridians. Unidentified object crash-landed approximately 2 kilometers from my position. Investigating now. The response came immediately. Specialist, satellite tracking confirms an escape pod of unknown origin. Proceed with caution. Reinforcements dispatched. Ilara moved swiftly through the dense undergrowth, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with anticipation. Viridians were peaceful explorers and healers. Contact with new species always sparked scientific excitement rather than fear. The impact site was easy to find. A charred gash through the forest canopy led to a smoldering metal pod embedded in the spongy ground. Part of its hull had cracked open, revealing a motionless figure inside. Ilara approached cautiously, medical scanner already assessing the atmosphere for pathogens. The being was unlike any she'd encountered in her 12 cycles as a xenobiologist. Its skin was a uniform tan color without luminescence or chromatophore activity. It had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and most strangely, hair. Actual protein filaments growing from its cranium. Fascinating, she whispered, carefully extracting the unconscious creature from the wreckage. Its vital signs were weak but present, according to her scanner's best guess at its physiology. Back at her research station, Ilara worked frantically to stabilize her patient. The database identified it as a human male with minimal additional information, a species encountered only once before by Viridian explorers. Temperature regulation critical, she murmured, adjusting environmental settings. And these injuries require immediate attention. As she ran a more thorough medical scan, something alarming appeared between the human's lower limbs, a strange swelling unlike the rest of its anatomy. By the 7 moons, Ilara gasped, her skin flashing warning colors of distress. Some type of parasite has attached itself, or perhaps an infection causing massive inflammation. The database offered no guidance on this apparent medical emergency. She carefully cut away the strange fabric covering the human's body to better assess the situation. The growth appeared integrated with the rest of its anatomy, yet distinctly different. Surely this couldn't be normal. I must remove it before it spreads, she decided, preparing a sedative calibrated for what she hoped was compatible with human biochemistry. Just as she readied her surgical tools, the human's eyes snapped open, startlingly white around colored centers. It made a harsh vocalization and attempted to move away, clearly in panic. Be still, Ilara soothed, her translator converting her harmonic speech to what she hoped was understandable language. I am specialist Ilara. You're injured, but I've discovered the parasite. I can help remove it before. The human's eyes widened impossibly further as it looked down at its exposed body, then back at Ilara's surgical tools poised above what she believed was a deadly growth. No, it shouted, its voice remarkably flat compared to Viridian harmonics. That's not. It's supposed to be there. Don't cut anything. Ilara's bioluminescence pulsed in confusion. But this growth between your limbs. The human's face flushed a remarkable shade of red. That's part of me. Normal anatomy. My name is Kai, and you really need to give me something to cover myself with. Ilara set down her tools, her scientific curiosity instantly replacing medical alarm. Truly, this is a natural part of your species. How absolutely remarkable. Kai groaned, reaching for the torn fabric nearby. This is going to be a very long conversation. So you're telling me, Ilara said, her iridescent skin flickering with patterns that indicated intense concentration, that this appendage is part of your reproductive system. She sat across from Kai, who now wore a makeshift covering fashioned from the medical bay's thermal blankets. Kai shifted uncomfortably on the examination platform. Yes, all human males have them. It's completely normal anatomy. The translation device rendered his words with a slight delay, making the conversation even more awkward. Fascinating. Ilara's eyes, 4 of them arranged in a diamond pattern, widened with scientific excitement. And it changes size. My scans indicated fluctuating blood flow patterns. Kai dragged a hand down his face. Look, I appreciate you saving my life, but can we discuss something else? Like how I'm going to contact my ship. The Artemis should be in orbit searching for me after the shuttle malfunction. Of course, Ilara responded, her skin dimming apologetically. But first I must understand your physiology to ensure proper treatment. Your species has never been fully documented in our medical database. She projected a holographic diagram of what she understood of human anatomy, which was hilariously inaccurate. The reproductive system appeared as a confusing mass of question marks. That's not how we're built at all, Kai said, unable to suppress a laugh despite his discomfort. On Earth, males and females have different reproductive organs. We're mammals, meaning females nurture offspring internally and provide nutrition through specialized glands after birth. Ilara's skin pulsed with bright patterns of astonishment. Internal gestation. How inefficient compared to our spawning pools. And you only have 2 sexes. Generally speaking, yes, Kai answered, finding himself drawn into the bizarre biology lesson. How does reproduction work for Viridians? We have 3 sexes, nutrient providers, genetic contributors, and incubators, Ilara explained, demonstrating with animated hand gestures. I am a genetic contributor. We deposit our combined genetic material into communal spawning beds where specialized caretakers monitor development. As they continued exchanging information about their species, the initial awkwardness gradually dissolved into genuine curiosity. Kai described human family structures while Ilara explained Viridian communal raising practices. So you form pair bonds? Ilara asked, fascinated. With only one mate. Some do, some don't, Kai replied. Humans have various relationship structures. Their conversation was interrupted by a chime from Ilara's monitoring system. Your recovery is progressing well, she noted, reviewing his vitals. Though your species requires far more water than I initially provided. As she handed him a container of purified water, their fingers brushed, her cool, slightly textured skin against his warm, smooth hand. Both pulled back slightly, surprised by the pleasant sensation of the contact. Thank you, Kai said quietly, suddenly aware of how intently he was studying the patterns rippling across her skin. For everything. Ilara's bioluminescence shifted to a gentle lavender hue. It is my duty as a medical specialist, she replied, though something in her harmonized tone suggested there might be more to it than professional obligation. Days passed in Ilara's research station, while they awaited word from either Kai's ship or Viridian authorities. Each morning, Ilara conducted careful scans of Kai's healing injuries, her touch becoming noticeably more lingering with each examination. Your bone density is remarkable, she commented while reviewing the latest results. And your body temperature regulation system is incredibly adaptable. Kai had grown accustomed to her scientific observations, but noticed she no longer mentioned his reproductive anatomy. A small mercy. What about your species? He asked. I've noticed you don't seem to need much sleep. We photosynthesize, Ilara explained, indicating the luminescent patterns across her azure skin. Short rest cycles during darkness, but primarily we absorb energy through our dermal photoreceptors. That's why the research station has those intense light panels, Kai realized. Yes, I've reduced their intensity for your comfort. She paused, her 4 eyes focusing intently on him. I've been meaning to ask, would you permit me to record more detailed anatomical data? For medical purposes only, she added quickly. Kai hesitated, then nodded. As long as I maintain some dignity in the process. Their research sessions became increasingly personal. Kai explained human concepts of physical attraction, while Ilara described the complex biochemical signals Viridians used to indicate interest. Neither explicitly acknowledged the growing tension between them, but it manifested in subtle ways. Kai finding excuses to demonstrate human customs that involved contact, Ilara's skin displaying patterns that her species reserved for intimate communications. One evening, as they shared a meal, Kay's adapted from his emergency rations. Ilara's a nutrient solution. She asked unexpectedly, "Do humans consider interspecies attraction taboo?" Kai nearly choked on his food. "It's complicated. In reality, it rarely comes up since we haven't encountered many compatible species." He studied her thoughtfully. "What about Viridians?" "We value genetic diversity," she said, her voice harmonizing in a way his translator didn't fully capture. "Compatibility is considered more important than form." Later, as artificial twilight dimmed the station lights, they sat together reviewing star charts, searching for the likely position of Kay's ship. Their shoulders touched occasionally, neither pulling away. "Your homeworld," Ilara said softly, pointing to a distant star. "It seems so far away." "It is," Kai agreed, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting, how the patterns on her skin had shifted to deep, pulsing blues. "But I'm finding certain aspects of Viridia quite appealing." Her luminescence brightened in response, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then, hesitantly, Ilara extended her hand, placing it palm up between them, a clear invitation. Kai placed his hand in hers, marveling at how different yet complementary they felt together. "The neural pathways here," Ilara murmured, tracing her fingers along Kai's bare shoulder, "are remarkably similar to Viridian patterns." They sat in her quarters, softly lit by bioluminescent plants and her own gently glowing skin. "Is that your professional assessment?" Kai asked with a smile, his heart racing at her touch. "Partially," she admitted. "But I find myself conducting research beyond strictly medical purposes." 2 weeks had passed since the crash. Communication had been established with both the Artemis and Viridian authorities, but atmospheric disturbances would delay any retrieval for several more days. Neither Ilara nor Kai had expressed disappointment at this news. "I've been studying human intimacy concepts," Ilara continued, her luminescence shifting to deeper, pulsing patterns. "Your literature contains many references to physical bonding rituals." Kai took her hand, guiding it to his chest, where she could feel his heartbeat. "And what have you learned?" "That despite our biological differences, we might find compatibility." Her voice harmonized in a way that needed no translation. Their first kiss was an experiment. Viridians didn't kiss, but Ilara had researched the practice thoroughly. The sensation of her cool lips against his warm ones sent unexpected pleasure coursing through both of them. "Your temperature rises," she observed, fascinated. "And mine drops to compensate. Perfect thermodynamic balance." Kai laughed softly. "Only you would analyze the physics of a kiss." As clothing and inhibitions fell away, they discovered a new frontier of xenobiology, the intimate exploration of two fundamentally different yet surprisingly compatible beings. The Lara's bioluminescence created patterns of light that transformed the room into a private cosmos. Kai found that the ridges along her spine were exquisitely sensitive, while she discovered that human erogenous zones responded powerfully to the subtle bioelectric field she could generate. "Your reproductive anatomy," Ilara whispered, "is far more interesting than I initially theorized." Kai's response was lost in sensation as they moved together, finding rhythm despite their different biologies. What they lacked in evolutionary compatibility, they made up for with scientific curiosity and genuine affection. Her luminescence reached blinding intensity at the peak of their connection, throwing intricate patterns across the walls like star formations. Afterward, lying together in contented amazement, Kai traced the now softly glowing patterns on her skin. "I never imagined I'd find this here, so far from home." "Perhaps," Ilara suggested, her 4 eyes half closed in satisfaction, "the universe has more compatible designs than we realize." She curled against him, her normally cool body temperature elevated from their activities. "Your ship will arrive soon." The unspoken question hung between them. What would happen when it did? The notification chime from the communication console pulled Kai and Ilara from their shared breakfast, a curious blend of human rations and Viridian nutrient supplements they'd both grown accustomed to over the past weeks. "Incoming transmission from Vessel Artemis," announced the automated system. "Priority Alpha." Kai's stomach tightened as he activated the holographic display. Captain Thorne's stern face materialized, the familiar insignia of the Earth Exploration Corps visible on his uniformed collar. "Lieutenant Kai." Thorne's voice filled the research station. "Good to see you alive. Atmospheric conditions are clearing. Extraction team arrives tomorrow at 600 local time. Prepare for immediate departure and debriefing." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. "Tomorrow," Ilara said, her luminescence dimming to a muted blue. She busied herself with clearing away their meal, her movements uncharacteristically imprecise. Kai watched her, his mind racing. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a xenobiologist's curiosity, an alien specimen with bewildering anatomy. Now the thought of returning to his ship felt strangely like leaving home rather than going back to it. "I've completed organizing my research," Ilara continued, her professional tone betrayed by the erratic patterns pulsing beneath her skin. "The Viridian Medical Council will be particularly interested in the compatibility of our nervous systems. The implications for interspecies medicine are significant." "Ilara," Kai said softly, reaching for her hand across the table. "Let's not pretend this was just research." She stilled, her 4 eyes meeting his. "What would you call it then?" "Something unprecedented," he answered honestly. "Something I don't want to end when that shuttle arrives." Outside, Viridia's twin suns began their gradual descent, casting long shadows through the research station's transparent dome. They had 1 night left, 1 night to determine what their discovery of each other might mean beyond this isolated moment in space and time. "I've been authorized to establish a permanent xenobiology exchange program," Ilara said suddenly, her voice gaining confidence. "The Council was impressed by my preliminary findings on human physiology. They granted me discretion to select suitable candidates for continued research." Kai raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a possibility," she countered, her luminescence brightening. "The Artemis continues its survey mission in this sector for another 6 months, correct? You could split your time, fulfilling your duties to your ship while serving as Earth's first official representative in our exchange program. And after those 6 months," Ilara's patterns shifted to colors he'd come to recognize as indicating both hope and uncertainty. "Science requires patience, Kai. We've only begun to explore the potential between our species." That evening, they stood on the observation platform outside the research station, watching astronomical twilight paint Viridia's sky in impossible gradients of color. The distant silhouette of a transport vessel, Ilara's colleagues arriving to continue her work after her departure, traced a glowing path across the horizon. "I've transmitted my formal research to both the Viridian Council and your ship's database," Ilara said, her shoulder touching his as they gazed upward. "Though I've omitted certain personal observations." Kai smiled. "Probably wise. I don't think either of our superiors need the complete details of our anatomical compatibility studies. I've also included a proposal," she continued, more seriously, "for a joint human Viridian medical initiative. Captain Thorne has already indicated preliminary approval." She turned to face him fully, her luminescence creating a private aurora around them both. "The Artemis would host me as the first Viridian liaison officer, while your medical bay would be upgraded with our technology. The arrangement would require a human counterpart to facilitate integration." "Let me guess," Kai said, unable to contain his growing smile. "You need someone already familiar with Viridian biology. Someone who wouldn't be startled by a blue, glowing scientist walking the corridors." "Precisely." Her luminescence brightened. someone with demonstrated compatibility with Viridian physiology and culture. Kai took her hands in his, marveling at how quickly he'd grown accustomed to the cool, textured feel of her skin against his. It would be unprecedented. There would be challenges, cultural misunderstandings, biochemical adjustments, bureaucratic resistance, all excellent research opportunities. Ilara countered, the harmonics in her voice expressing what human language couldn't fully capture. And perhaps something more significant than research alone. The first stars of evening appeared above them, including the distant point of light where the Artemis orbited, waiting. Tomorrow would bring reunion with his crew, explanations to his superiors, and the beginning of something no human or Viridian had attempted before. I need to warn you, Kai said, drawing her closer. Humans can be stubborn about their attachments. Once we form a connection, we don't easily let it go, even across interstellar distances. Ilara's skin displayed patterns he'd only seen in their most intimate moments, complex, deeply saturated swirls that rippled from her core outward. Then we have that in common, despite our anatomical differences. As night fully claimed the sky, they returned to the research station to prepare for tomorrow's departure, packing specimens, research notes, and carefully selected personal items. What had begun with a misidentified parasite was evolving into something that would change both their worlds. Later, as they lay together in the darkness, Ilara's subtle bioluminescence casting gentle patterns across the ceiling, Kai realized that what they'd discovered together wasn't just compatibility between different species, but the universal nature of connection itself, something that transcended biology, overcome anatomical misunderstandings, and perhaps might even bridge the vast distances between their worlds. We've only completed the preliminary research, Ilara whispered against his shoulder. The most significant discoveries still await us. Kai pulled her closer, thinking of tomorrow's shuttle, and the new journey it would begin rather than the one it would end. I look forward to continuing our studies, he murmured, for as long as the research requires. Her answering luminescence said everything words couldn't. Some things needed no translation at all. Retriclade can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.